Okay, so let's get right into this. A lot of people are worried essentially about what's going to happen with the arrests. And the thing I want to say to you is that we are going to go through all the different types of fraud, similar fault, material evidence that legally could potentially get you in trouble related to receiving Social Security benefits. Now, as a result of all of this, I want to make this very, very clear. The arrests from Doge, D-O-G-E, via Elon Musk are officially starting. Now, I have gone through with you guys previously OIG investigations, indictments, all that stuff, where they're jailing the individuals. Some of them are SSA personnel that work, literally at the local field offices. Some of them are claimants. Some of them are bad people that are dealers who essentially go ahead and steal money from people. So what we're going to be doing is going through the recent article that was just released, literally, I believe it was, 2 days ago on April 1st, Elon Musk's disclosure of planned Social Security fraud arrest troubles top law enforcement officials. Sources basically are saying Musk's disclosure of a planned fraud arrest troubles the law enforcement officials, and it appears that Musk is boasting of advanced knowledge of a planned arrest related to Social Security fraud. Frustrating law enforcement officials, sources tell ABC News. So basically, the law enforcement personnel are saying, don't tell the criminals that we're coming for them. And Musk is basically doing a little bit of advertising, a little bit of boasting, which as a result of that is starting to piss off those individuals that have to go and arrest that person, because now that person knows something's going to happen, and it puts the law enforcement potentially in a higher, range of, let's call it like it is, danger. You know what I mean? When the criminal knows you're coming, you're, as a law enforcement, you're in more danger. Real quick, Princess Diana, thank you for gifting a membership to Deborah. That's absolutely amazing. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Now, tech billionaire and senior Trump advisor Elon Musk appeared to boast of advanced knowledge of a planned arrest related to alleged Social Security fraud during an appearance on a live stream Monday night, promoting to his more than 200 million social media followers, frustrated top law enforcement officials, and, quote, yes, in fact, I believe someone is going to be arrested tomorrow, Musk said in response to a question about whether U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi would prosecute fraud found within the Social Security system. Musk made the comments during a live stream tele-rally in support of conservative Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel. Musk, discussing the alleged planned arrest, said, quote, this is someone who actually stole 400,000 Social Security numbers and personal information from the Social Security database and was selling Social Security numbers and all of the identification information in order for people to basically steal money from Social Security. Now, we don't know all the details here. Sometimes when they come out with this stuff, they've already got the person, basically in, handcuffs somewhere as a result. And they're just coming out with something to advertise it. Musk did not say how he came to know about the alleged planned arrest, but sources familiar with the matter told ABC News that Musk was referring to an ongoing federal investigation and that his public disclosure of the matter disturbed top law enforcement officials with knowledge of the probe. Previewing an arrest before it takes place would conflict with the standard practice intended to protect potentially sensitive law enforcement operations and those involved in carrying them out. A White House spokesperson referred ABC News to the Justice Department for comment. A spokesperson for the Justice Department did not immediately respond to ABC News' request for comment. Musk, whose government-slashing Department of Government Efficiency has been working inside the Social Security Administration for several weeks, later reiterated, quote, and yes, we are going to be prosecuting people. The Attorney General is taking action. So basically, Pam Bondi is off the leash, ready to roll, to go and arrest people who are essentially committing fraud against the Social Security Administration. Now, obviously expect that these individuals are going to be some headliners. So we're talking about big, big deals. Lots of money, lots of Social Security numbers, lots of fraud, high levels of crime, okay? Because that's what they want up front. They don't want, the little person that's trying to, just deal with one Social Security number. They want somebody that's big, 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 okay? Gracias told the crowd that amid their review of systems inside the SSA, the team had referred to law enforcement targets for prosecution. Gracias alleged that they had identified and reported undocumented immigrants improperly receiving Social Security and registering to vote. Quote, the defaults in the system from Social Security to all the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them, undocumented immigrants, already on Medicaid, as an example, said Gracias, or I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name. Quote, we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records, and we found people here registered to vote in this population. Yes, and we found some by sampling that actually did vote, and we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service already, Gracias said. Now, with that said, just to be clear, here's what's happening. The Social Security Administration has all kinds of fraud. And the main thing that people were focused on right up front was essentially that was fraud where people were receiving a monthly check from the Social Security Administration. That has not panned out in the sense of like, you know, lots and lots and lots of fraud. There were individuals that had that, but it wasn't as rampant as they were selling it to begin with. Now, where the fraud is rampant is basically when it comes to filing taxes and basically using Social Security numbers to take out fraudulent loans, to file profit against a Social Security number that no longer has a person that's actually living attached to it. And then, of course, we have some of these situations where, you know, it's just mass taking. And now, I will say this. Somebody said, as an insult to me, you know, how dare I say that Social Security numbers could be manipulated to, you know, basically go ahead and have elections. And the person said, how dare you, state elections use their own reference numbers, and how I was wrong and blah, blah, blah. You know how people are. You know how like people go off on me and do this and that. But to be fair, if we turn on our brains for just 1 second, you will realize that it is much easier to vote in a state election or a federal election if you have a valid Social Security number, even if it is not your actual Social Security number, but you claim it. So Social Security numbers are the key to really have a good in on basically having options for voting in the future. And one of the things that's likely going to happen is you'll be seeing a lot of reports released over the next 2 months showing how many people had fraudulent Social Security numbers or valid Social Security numbers used for fraudulent purposes, which is going to be very interesting because they can try to figure out essentially how this person was linked, what they were doing. And I don't know, if they can figure out a way to do it, they might even be able to see what their voting history was, how many times they voted, stuff like that. They may not be able to see which way they voted, but they'll be able to see how many times they voted, what, you know, geographic areas they voted in, etc. So it's going to be particularly interesting to see all this information coming out. Now, people are either in one of 3 camps when it comes to fraud in the Social Security Administration. They're either in the camp that there's no fraud at all, it doesn't exist, it never existed, it will never exist in the future, which is obviously BS. That's insanity. That's delusional. That is completely incorrect, right? Because we know, and I've done articles showing you the hot sheets from OIG SSA, the Office of Inspector General, where I showed you even before DOGE, even before Elon, the OIG team was doing their job to go ahead and arrest people who were abusing Social Security benefits. So that whole thing just is political Hollywood level propaganda, and their brains are just riding the wave. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the belief that there is not a single disabled person who is truthfully, rightfully receiving benefits, and that there's fraud and almost everybody's committing fraud. And you have that extreme, right? That extreme is just absolutely ridiculous as well, because it's just not reality. Okay, the Social Security Administration has a lot of checks and balances, but yes, the higher up you get access to their system, the higher up the super admin user functions you can get into, the more things you can use and abuse within the system. Then there's people like me, the independents, looking at the whole situation saying, okay, we know there's fraud. There's fraud in every agency. There's fraud in every administration. There's fraud everywhere. Every country has it, everywhere. As a result of that, we then have to ask, what could they legally prove? And that's what's really coming down. So a lot of people are saying Dodge is, just a terrible, terrible, dog this, dog that, whatever. The point is, now comes the proofing. Now comes they're filing charges. They're seeking judges to go ahead and, adjudicate these claims. And so as a result of that, what's going to happen is you are going to get to see for the first time whether or not DOGE is actually able to find people that are true criminals to be prosecuted and, essentially pay somehow, some way, some sort of justice, towards the crimes that they've committed. Now, I want to go through something real quick. The most recent OIG notification about somebody who basically frauded the Social Security Administration. I want to give you an example because I'm still going to get people in the comments who say there's no fraud, there's never been fraud, yada, yada, yada. The system is perfect. There's no way it could be done, yada, yada, yada. And remember, also, the employees at the SSA, the lower on the totem pole there are, the lower their user access capabilities are, which means that they can't go ahead and modify certain entry options, modify certain category options, or even have a situation where they can type in new code to change an outcome. So the thing is, you have to understand, even if you talk with like local field office people, stuff like that, they're going to be like, oh, there's no way to, hey. But the higher up you get in your user role inside a computer system, which, and I know a lot of you guys don't build programs, you don't know C#, you're not sure how, even website coding works, which is like the cuter version of like high-end program. So when it comes to user roles, you have all kinds of different administrative roles, all the way up to your ultimate super user role who has back-end access to do modifications, code changes, etc. And so at these different levels, you can modify, change, update, insert code as you like to go ahead and change things. And if you're not into coding, you're not going to know that, and that's okay. That's totally fine. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying you have to know what this stuff is. I just learned today that when it comes to quantum computing, they've now been able to measure the amount of time where one particle will entangle with another particle. And that just blew my mind, because with quantum entanglement, you can actually now measure mathematically how to go ahead and take particles, quantum entangle them, and build structures off of them, which I know is something that you guys don't care about. But just to clarify, that allows them to create force shields, like literally around an object. That allows them to create physical buildings that can be quantum manipulated to be placed on the surface of a planet. That allows them to do a lot of stuff. And that's way too far down the line. I get it, but it is life-changing. Now that we know the amount of time it takes for 2 bits to basically quantum entangle, a lot of big things are going to happen with space stuff. A lot of big things. Because remember, you now have the option of quantum entangling A to B and recreating B over here. Or you could just go ahead and take a blueprint of this and then multiply it on different planets. So you can have Steve, be populating, 100,000 planets, in some actual creation that's, again, I know you guys aren't into space stuff, but that really got me excited. All right, let's go through what the OIG hot sheet says. It's the one that was just released April 2nd, 2025. This is about that Pawtucket man who admitted to defrauding federally funded benefit programs using stolen identities, altering and cashing stolen U.S. Treasury checks. Here we go. All right, a Pawtucket man with a lengthy record of arrests and convictions for financial fraud admitted to a federal judge on Tuesday that he defrauded the federally funded Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, and U.S. Treasury out of more than $100,000 combined, announced acting United States Attorney Sarah Moran Bloom. Or maybe it's Myron, I'm not really sure. I hate doing that too, because there's no way for me to just automatically know what their name is. And I don't have enough time to look up everybody's name. So it's frustrating because a lot of these names, especially attorneys' names, they're all over the place. They are all over the place. Here we go. Ronaldo Martinez, that's an easy one. 32, admitted that he obtained at least 40 SNAP EBT cards through the use of stolen identities and stolen or fraudulent Social Security numbers. Court documents reflect that Martinez appeared in person at multiple Rhode Island Department of Human Services offices and filed applications for SNAP benefits. He did this by presenting fraudulent driver's licenses in various names, but depicting his own photograph and using Social Security numbers assigned to others, including that of a deceased individual, living adult citizen, and at least one juvenile. So you're starting to see how federal Social Security number can be used to manipulate state-based stuff. I hope so, because that person was so mean to me in the comments. I was just like, damn, man, come on. Just think one step forward. He figured it out. But he didn't. He just got more mad. Martinez admitted to fraudulently securing at least $33,192.36 in SNAP benefits. That's a shitload of cold food, let me tell you. In a second fraud scheme, Martinez admitted to cashing altered United States Treasury checks made payable to himself, Martinez, and co-conspirators obtained checks made payable to others, then altered the checks to reflect counterfeit or fraudulent driver's licenses that presented when cashing or depositing the checks. All right. The total amount of fraudulent U.S. Treasury checks cashed or deposited was approximately $79,532.32. Martinez pleaded guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy and 1 count of each of misuse of Social Security number and aggravated identity theft. He is scheduled to be sentenced on July 8th, 2025. The sentence imposed will be determined by a federal district judge after consideration of the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. They're going to look at how bad they're going to hit him, right? Court records illustrate that Martinez was previously arrested and convicted on multiple occasions in multiple states on fraud-related and other criminal charges dating back to 2012. So dude's been busy doing crimes for a while now. Okay, remember 2012 is like a while ago, right? It's like a while ago. A lot of people are like 2012 was yesterday. No, 2012 was a while. It's a long time ago. I know. I was talking to somebody about the 80s who was born after 2000, and they're like, "What was it like back then?" And I was like, "What do you mean? You had VHS tapes and you had windsuits, and that's what it was." And they were like, "What are VHS tapes?" I'm like, "Oh, you sorry." For example, in November 2017, Martinez pleaded guilty in U.S. District Court in Rhode Island to 4 counts of aggravated identity theft, 2 counts of access fraud, and 1 count each of bank fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted access fraud, and interstate transportation of stolen goods. He was sentenced to 48 months of incarceration to be followed by 3 years of federal supervised release. So, not somebody who is, he's experienced in abusing the law. He's experienced defrauding the Social Security Administration, so they caught him again. This case is being prosecuted by Assistant United States Attorney Peter Rockland. Then they go through all the people they want to glad hand and say, thank you, did an amazing job. I'm just going to put it right here, but you know how it is, okay? They just list all the agencies involved. With that said, I want to go through some basic stuff so you understand exactly whether Pam Bondi can come knocking at your door. What is, and this is specifically from, I pulled it. All right, so I-1-3-15. Again, I-1-3-15, if you want to follow along, it is the adjudicating fraud or similar fault issues from, you guessed it, the SSA.gov OP. All right, let's get into it real quick. We're going to go to the second page. We're going to go right to what is, right here, fraud. Okay, cool. So definition of fraud exists when an individual with intent to defraud. So like they choose to do this. They're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Aldi's, I'm going to get some food. Or they're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to steal some Social Security cards and then be a fraudulent criminal. And that's a terrible thing. So we don't want that. Fraud exists when an individual with intent to defraud either makes or causes to be made a false statement or misrepresentation of material fact. That's the important word. Remember, material there is important for use in determining rights under the act. Also, super duper thank you for the $10 donation from Tornadoes. That's absolutely amazing. I super appreciate it. That's very, very cool. Okay, so keep in mind, guys, I really appreciate these donations too, because I have to do an update on Shadow because he's doing basically the surgery and it's a hip replacement, so it ain't cheap. So I do super appreciate these donations. So as you guys know, I do way too many SSI. I'm just going to be honest with you. I do way too many SSI claims. I was doing accounting today in the Excel sheet, going through the win payments. We lose money pretty much on every SSI claim at this point. Like everything's so expensive. Employees are expensive, paper's expensive, parents expensive, insurance expensive, location's expensive, it's just expensive. Like it's way too expensive. And that's part of the problem. That's sometimes you guys are like, why did you not so I get that. Like people, they don't say it this way, but they're like, why didn't you love Biden? Why didn't you think he was the best? Because like passion project companies, like a law firm that helps the homeless, they can't succeed when it gets real expensive. I just want to clarify that for everybody. If you have passion projects or small groups making something in a garage, they're innovating something and they're trying to compete against some giant conglomerate, or you have a passion project like medical clinic that's we want to help specifically these people and specialize in it, they can't survive in a Biden economy. That's why underlying a lot of what's going on, I'm pissy towards him. And people always take that as well, you must hate the Democratic Party. I don't. There's a lot of stuff I love about it, but I do call out the right and I call out the left when they're full of BS. I call them out both, and then people get upset at me and they scream at me, how dare you, you're evil. But I will say this, I get a lot more hate from the left than I do from the right. And to be fair, if you look at essentially how Clinton was, politically, he's very similar to what I believe. The Clinton in modern day politics, and I was just watching his speeches, going through his actions and changes, and Clinton literally is a Republican now. Like I was just watching that. I was like picking out. I was like, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is this? I mean, I was going through like the logistical things that he changed, the logistical things that he pushed. Obviously, the whole White House scandal did not help his situation. But at this point, the dude's a Republican. Like, if you just go learn about what he wanted to achieve, what he was complaining about, etc. In fact, first term Obama was pretty much independence, like modern day independence for the most part. I know you're going to disagree with me, but as he continued down his path, second term, he became more socialist, more socialist, more socialist. But I think AOC is going to be the future of essentially the Democratic Party because they really align with that. And I think Trump is probably going to get a third term option. Not that he'll win it, but I think he'll get a third term option from essentially, the Republican Party, to go ahead and have those two go head to head. You'll have the young female AOC versus, classic Trump style. I think that might be happening. I don't know if it will, but I feel like we're starting to make that magic happen where it's like in the world of rolling the dice, like you never expect an AOC v Trump. You just wouldn't expect it. But I think we might actually get that, which to me is just like, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to imagine that, but it is what it is. All right. So fraud, intent to defraud, either makes or causes to be made, you do an action, a false statement, you say something, or misrepresentation, an omission, or you did this and it kind of meant that, of a material fact, a fact that really mattered, that, caused it to have people believe or cause something to, result for use in determining rights under the act, or conceals or fails to disclose a material fact for use in determining the rights under the act. Note, adjudicators must distinguish between the definition of fraud used by the SSA in administrative proceedings, as defined above, and the general use of fraud in criminal context. General criminal intent to defraud is established only when an involved party pleads guilty or is convicted of a criminal offense involving fraud in connection with the claim under consideration. So remember, there's two definitions. You have classic criminal fraud. You're going to see that in district court filings. And then you have administrative SSA fraud, which is, to be honest, more of a gotcha statute. Okay, so bottom line is, for SSA's administrative purposes, it is not necessary for a party to admit guilt or to be convicted of a crime before the fraud standard may be used. So SSA is going to get you much more easily on fraud for their administrative adjudications. Princess Diana, thank you. She's been with us for one of the longest times. Awesome person. So Walter, you're the best. I appreciate your number one. Thank you. I really appreciate it. If you guys are wondering what that little logo is, that means that she's been a member for many, many months, which is absolutely amazing. So, okay, real quick. So definition of similar fault. So we did fraud. Now we're going to do similar fault. Similar fault occurs when an individual, so somebody, knowingly makes an incorrect or incomplete statement that is material to the determination or decision, or knowingly conceals information that is material to the determination or decision. So, put another way, they're doing a little bit of fibbing, or they're like an omission where they should have given this, should have given that. Okay, no, knowingly describes an individual awareness of understanding regarding the correctness or completeness of the information the individual provides us, or the materiality of the information the individual conceals from us. Okay. All right. So here we go. Knowingly does not mean an individual should have known that a statement material to the determination or decision was incomplete or inaccurate, an omission of a statement. You don't tell them everything. You don't tell them what they need to know, or you just totally leave something out, or that material information was being concealed. So the SSA's rules on proving fraud or similar fault, they're very easy to meet as standards go. They're very, very easy to meet. Okay. Now, quick definition on material. Material describes a statement or information. So you say something, or there's something that you can give them on a piece of paper that says okay, this is the thing, this is what's going on. Or an omission from a statement or information. You don't say something, or you withhold a document that could influence SSA in determining entitlement to monthly benefits under Title II or eligibility for monthly benefits under Title 16 of the Act. Okay, so let's go through the standards of proof. People are going to be wondering what that means. It's the standards by which they adjudicate your claim. And then once we do that, we're going to literally go into all the different ways that you're going to be seeing Elon Musk and DOGE start to show up with handcuffs, at different locations with different people when it comes to arresting people who are committing these types of acts against the Social Security Administration. Okay. All right. Standard proof number one, reason to believe. Reason to believe. When adjudicating fraud and similar fault issues under Section 205U and 1631E7 of the Act, the adjudicator will use the reason to believe standard. Reason to believe means reasonable grounds to suspect that fraud or similar fault was involved in the provision of the evidence. The reason to believe standard requires more than mere suspicion, speculation, or a hunch, but it does not require preponderance of the evidence. Okay, so basically, you've got essentially a suspicion, that's not good enough, and then you've got a preponderance in between there, right? In between there. You're kind of like, okay, I see something going on. I might have reason to believe. I do have reason to believe there might be something more going on. Let's check it out. Okay. Preponderance of the evidence. When considering whether the condition for reopening exists under HALEX, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to skip that because it's the rule. The adjudicator will use the preponderance of the evidence standard to determine whether a determination or decision was obtained by fraud or similar fault. They usually use the cadre division for this stuff. Preponderance of the evidence means that after considering the evidence as a whole, so like you've got all the evidence in a file, they have it there to consider it. After considering all the evidence as a whole, the existence of the fact to be proven is more likely than not. Again, is more likely than not. For example, when an individual has been convicted in federal or state court of a criminal offense involving a false or fraudulent claim for Social Security benefits, it is likely that there exists a preponderance of evidence that a prior determination or decision was obtained by fraud or similar fault. Okay, so think of preponderance of evidence as like they already have a bunch of stuff, they're reviewing the record. Yeah, it looks like, essentially a situation where, to be fair, this is more than just reason to believe, way more than suspicion. It looks like they were doing criminal acts. Here's some proof that shows the likelihood of it. Okay. Now, let's talk about the different types of fraud, similar fault that actually exist in the national economy of Social Security benefits. Let's talk about those who will be arrested. Now, you're going to realize as I read through this, some of you are like, oh, I didn't realize I could be doing a little of that, or you could be doing a little of that, or oh my goodness, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that, driving my bike to, basically North Dakota was, I didn't realize that telling them I can't sit for more than 10 minutes and then, being in my boat, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a bunch of them. I pulled the list down. I had ChatGPT create a massive list for me, and I'm going to explain them as I go through them so that you fully understand exactly what DOGE plus Elon are doing when they're tracking down people using whatever means they have available to them to investigate people, get their warrants, etc. And then, of course, Pam Bondi comes in because she's going to be the one who's doing, the people directly under her, the filing against that person for criminal action, okay? Now, remember, I'm not giving a leaning left on this. I'm not giving a leaning right on this. Okay. The left usually wants people to not be investigated, right? That's not their forte. The right usually wants everybody to be hyper investigated, but at the same time, they want less government. You know what I mean? It's just one of those, It's just one of those things. All right. So let's get into it. Technically the right wants less government and they want people to be left alone unless they're a criminal, but you can't find out if they're a criminal unless you investigate them. So that's where the whole happens right there. All right, so let's keep rocking and rolling. All right, so here we go. So you have identity theft. Easy peasy. Someone steals another person's social security number to fraudulently apply for benefits. Easy peasy. Identity theft. You have impersonation scams. Fraudsters pretend to be from the Social Security Administration or some subcategory of the SSA or some business that basically has to conclude something for them to trick victims into revealing personal information or making fraudulent payments. This happens on X, the online program. This happens with basically people claiming that they're from the SSA because they can change what shows up on their phone. You'll receive this thing from the phone. It will say like SSA, and you're like, oh, it must be them. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Next one, misuse of benefits by representative payees. So you know how those people that basically have to receive money and then distribute it to somebody who's not really capable of handling their own money, whether it's for physical or mental impairments. This is, this situation. So misuse of benefits by representative payees. Individuals appointed to manage Social Security benefits for others misuse the funds for personal gain rather than for the beneficiary's needs. So for example, let's say that basically the person receives $900. We're just going to keep numbers round. And then they go ahead and give, let's say, $600 to the claimant and say there's no more. And then they take $300 and spend it at Disney World. That would be a great example of misuse of benefits by a representative payee. Okay. Next one, falsifying information. Gets us into that whole fraud, similar fault thing. Well, that's more fraud. Providing false information on applications such as exaggerating disabilities or underreporting income to qualify for benefits improperly. So, basically, the problem with the modern day Social Security Administration is that the whole situation has become very, very aggressive at culturally changing to be highly restrictive on approving people for disability benefits. And so people are upping their game with trying to explain why they are more and more and more limited. And, this keeps revving up. And so, I can foresee this being an area where DOGE or maybe Elon is doing more investigations, which I don't like, but it is what it is. Again, I'm going to keep it neutral, as to essentially looking into individuals when it comes to their ability to perform actual tasks. So it wouldn't be hard. It would not be hard for Elon to, hire a bunch of people, pay them to go ahead and I'm just trying to imagine the worst possible scenario, hire them, go through the file, find something that's not consistent with, video footage of the person, get a warrant, go into stuff, and then begin the whole yada yada. Okay, it would not be hard for them to do that, especially with his background money and access, to be honest, although he is limited in how long he's supposed to be able to be with the federal government. So next one. Okay, fraudulent claims for deceased individuals. Continuing to collect benefits on behalf of someone who has passed away without notifying the SSA. Super common. Kids will basically commit terrible things by their parents passing away. They won't tell the SSA. And there's always somebody in the comments who will be like, they have to tell them because the coroner is going to tell them. Yeah. For those people that have a limited imagination as to people not reporting the death, right? Or that, the parent ends up under a tree, that is a protected species that can't be dug up, or ends up in a pig pen, or ends up in a vat, or whatever. It just to be clear, if you are that clean mentally, where you've never seen the bad side of the world, then I appreciate you. You're kind of unique. You know what I mean? Gonna pat you on the back. That's good. I mean, it's not good for what happens and you're not prepared for reality, but that's okay. Next one, work and earnings concealment. Disability benefit recipients who secretly work while still claiming they are unable to do so. So the main thing that we usually see is essentially an individual who will basically go ahead and, push to, basically get out there, get a job, to be able to afford benefits. The whole point of it is, to be fair, that a lot of people can't afford to be disabled anymore. And it sounds weird to say that, right? They can't afford to be disabled anymore. But that's it. That's the truth of it. Think about it. When food doubles in price, and part of the problem is when they do that cost of living adjustment stuff, it's not based off of label products, the stuff that you normally buy. It's based off of non-label products. And so as a result, and sometimes it's based on the before it gets to the store, how they do their calculations on meat before it gets to the store by certain larger amounts. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, if you have basically a bunch of grocery stores that, get together and start to abuse, selling the products at way too high of a price, and then you have basically corporations abusing, how their labeled product is going to cost them a lot more money, so they have to raise the price. And then you have the general overall marketplace saying, okay, well, even if we have, 50,000 pounds of this beef or oil or whatever, that it's going to cost this much more to do it. You can see why food got out of hand. You can see why eggs got out of hand. You can see why this really ramped up and rolled over. And you can see why Biden should have been a little bit more active on that one. He was not protecting the interests of the poor, is what it is. All right, next one. All right. So, mail theft and check fraud, stealing or altering Social Security checks before they reach the intended recipient. They're going to be getting away from a lot of mail checks in the future. So, this one's going to decrease over time, but you know how it is. They get it, they pretend, sign it over to them, and then they deposit it, stuff like that. All right. Social Security overpayment scams. Scammers falsely claim that someone has been overpaid and must repay money immediately, often demanding payment via gift cards or wire transfers. This one is actually something that more people than I thought fall for, and that's where the SSA will call up and it'll be a fake person, and the fake person will be trained on how to go ahead and pull information out of a person, and they'll use that information against that individual, and it's not good. It happens specifically a lot to our mentally challenged, disabled individuals. So it's just one of those things where it's just not a good situation. Okay, fraudulent use of SSI benefits for children. Parents or guardians claim supplemental security income for a disabled child, but misuse the funds for personal expenses. That's kind of your same situation as a payee abusing the holding of funds and distributing them, and then basically doesn't use them for the proper means that they should be used. Now, another one is scams targeting the elderly. Scammers call seniors, claiming to be SSA representatives, threaten benefit suspension unless immediate payment or personal information is provided. Sometimes they'll have different groups put together. They'll have entire floors of buildings of scammers basically using different information, and they'll claim, hey, scammer number one calls up that they're from the field office. Scammer number two calls up that they're from the payment division of the SSA. And they're pretty developed, Hollywood level scripts that they deliver to people, and people fall for it. So it is an unfortunate thing. Okay. Next one, false reports of disability improvement. Individuals fraudulently reporting someone else's disability has improved to stop their benefits, often for personal or financial motives. So to be clear, the Karens that get mad at somebody who lives in the neighborhood that doesn't work, where they don't see them going to work, and that's becoming less and less of a thing because a lot of people now work from home. But it used to be a big thing where you would get neighbors that were nosy, that would want to know who you were, what you did, etc. And they would basically report you if they felt that you were claiming disability benefits, getting a check, and not doing anything to actually have to work like they had to. So they get jealous and they get, kind of pissy, and that would develop into a whole situation. Next one. Okay, so doctor and medical provider fraud. Healthcare providers submit false medical reports or exaggerate conditions to help someone qualify for disability benefits fraudulently. So that doesn't happen a lot, and it's really rare when it does happen. It does happen in Puerto Rico more than I expected, because there were some really big crackdowns in Puerto Rico when it comes to the doctors giving certain letters and then getting payoffs from the attorneys. So there was a whole massive one in Puerto Rico that happened with basically doctors that were working with the attorneys to kind of scam the system. I don't know if that was like 10 years ago or something, but that was massive. That one was massive. Next one. Okay, fraudulent direct deposit changes, which is what Elon's been talking about recently. Scammers hack or trick beneficiaries into changing their direct deposit information, redirecting benefits to fraudulent accounts. This can be everything like, changing the direction of the check to a new address, changing the account routing number. This can be any one of those things, and it can be a lot of those things. And the problem is you get a lot of mentally disabled or elderly people, and they don't realize what's happening to them as it's happening. Next one, Social Security number for employment fraud. Someone uses a stolen or fake Social Security number to work under false pretenses, potentially affecting another person's benefits. So we're going to be seeing a lot of individuals who assumed the Social Security number of somebody who's already passed away, assumed the identity of somebody, and then worked for a part of their life under that as that person in America. And that's kind of the things, they become that person. So that is something I expect to see a lot of, with DOGE basically going and looking into a lot of immigrants, some of which are newer, the Biden era, some of them going back to essentially the first Trump, or basically back to Obama era as well. Some of them go way past Obama. Some of them go back before Clinton. It's like they were living somebody else's identity for a very, very, very long time. Next one, investment scams for involving Social Security. The fraudsters claim they can maximize Social Security benefits through special investment programs, but instead they steal the victim's money. So these are kind of like your classic things where it's like a Ponzi scheme on top of a Ponzi scheme. They basically will take your Social Security benefits, put into something else, and then they claim it's growing, they claim it's building, and and here's this fake sheet, here's that fake sheet, and then at the end of the day, it's not growing, it's not doing well, they just steal your money. So that's one of those things you have to watch out for. Next one is stolen benefits from nursing homes or caregivers. That is quite common. It's an unfortunate thing. It is a very negative mark on the society of America, but unfortunately it does happen. Nursing homes, caregivers, or family members unlawfully take a beneficiary's Social Security payments for their own use. It's one of those things where, honestly, that one's very common. It's unfortunate. I did like Biden's one plan where he was going to try and have a training program, kind of like what they have at VA, to have individuals trained specifically on how to take care of their elderly parents and have a job doing that. And the federal government would find a way to kind of like fund the whole process. I did like that. They never did anything. They never got into a bill that actually was going anywhere. So again, disappointment. Prisoner benefit fraud. A person continues to collect benefits while in prison, even though incarceration makes them ineligible, because if you're in jail, like there's different rules for different programs, but the main thing is if you're in jail for like 30 days or more, just bottom line is you're not going to get a check. So the bottom line is that's more on the SSA's side, because all their programs should talk to each other. All of the prisons, all the jails should integrate with the SSA. So when that happens, and it's not so much the prisoner who did it, it's usually the SSA just missed something, because they should be notified about that. Next one, marriage or divorce fraud. Individuals falsely claim marriage or divorce to qualify for spousal or survivor's benefits, or I'm going to add to that, basically to get rid of the marriage penalty. So essentially, you'll have two SSI people that get a divorce, and then they claim to live separately, but in reality, they live together. And that's basically trying to create a situation where, at the end of the day, they're just trying to sidestep some BS caveat program that they should have gotten away with, they should have gotten rid of at the SSA a long time ago. Okay, next one. Let's see. Manipulating work credits. Individuals falsify work history records to meet the requirements for Social Security benefits. This is pretty common, but to be honest with you guys, a lot of people can kind of get around that by just finding somebody to hire them to do something. You know what I mean? Like you can have a friend hire you to do something. You can, 1099 something to just go ahead and work for them, and then they can pay you money, and then you can report that as earnings. Even if it's a simple job where they don't require much of you, the standard of working is that you are working to earn the money. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So bottom line is this, manipulating work credits, that's how that works, because some people need more quarters of coverage. So, but honestly, they need to change that rule. That rule is just kind of ridiculous. They should have an option where you can just buy quarters of coverage. It does not make sense why people cannot just buy quarters of coverage. If you want to buy a quarter of coverage, it costs more than if you were to just try to earn one, and then you could just buy it, and then you can just do it. They don't have a legal way to do what everybody knows people do, and that's just it's just a pain in the butt. It's shameful, and they need to fix it. They need to fix that. Another one, misrepresentation of citizenship or immigration status. That's going to be big. You're going to see Pam Bondi spent a lot of time with that one. Some may claim U.S. citizenship or lawful immigration status to fraudulently collect Social Security benefits. Again, you're going to be seeing individuals claim to be Americans even though they passed away, or they caused the passing away of that person, and then they assume their identification, which, to be fair, if you wanted to do that, what you would do is just find somebody that looks like you, and then you would essentially effectuate taking over their life, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, next one. Social Security disability insurance fraud rings. Groups of people who, often involving corrupt doctors or lawyers, work together to submit fraudulent disability claims. That's kind of like what we went over before, where they will work to go ahead and get documents filled out that say somebody is more severe, or they have an impairment that they don't actually have, or there's a some sort of diagnostic impression that cites to a medical machine output that says this person has this much of this, and therefore danger. All right, next one. Foreign pension fraud. Some individuals hide foreign pensions to continue receiving Social Security benefits they wouldn't otherwise qualify for. So put another way, basically, if somebody has money in some other account somewhere in another country, and that country doesn't talk to the banking system of this country to notify the SSA, or the SSA can't search that country's banking assets, and they're essentially getting a pension from, or some trust or they're getting money from some other place. The SSA can't track it, and they're getting a Social Security check, and they're getting some other check check that would potentially make them ineligible for the Social Security check. Next one, romance scams involving Social Security. Fraudsters build online relationships with victims, then manipulate them into sharing Social Security information or benefits. So the whole idea with this one is that basically, putting it simple, somebody is lovesick, and that lovesick person finds somebody online that might be a female, and it turns out to be a dude. And the dude is basically getting money out of them all the time because they're always constantly having problems. They have scripts made up. My car broke down. I need this. I have a medical thing. Can you send me some money? Blah, 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 blah. Onwards and onwards. Okay, next one. Military and veteran benefit fraud. A person fraudulently claims military service related to Social Security benefits they are not entitled to. Or let me give you another one. They claim that they are 100% P&T, or that they were injured when they actually weren't. And then, basically the SSA has to check through, see what's been delivered, deliver documentation showing it. And they might send in a, fake version that they've created off of another one they've seen online. Stuff like that. Okay, another one, charity or lottery scams using SSA name. Scammers impersonate Social Security officials, claiming the victim has won a lottery or must donate to fake SSA-related charities. So I think, honestly, we do need a Social Security benefit, like an actual lottery, because part of the thing is, like, a lot of people are losing hope in the system, and I feel like that would increase hope. Like, if $1 went to the lottery, and every single time, every month, like there was a person who won, and that person would win, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, 300, whatever it would come out to. I think we do need that, because I think we need hope to some degree back into the program of being relevant. And also, people will always be wondering when they're going to win. But at the same time, you know what I mean? How do you take $1 from an SSI person? How does that work, right? Next one. Let's keep rocking and rolling through these. All right. Next one, deep fake and AI voice scams. That's the new thing. That's the real new thing. Criminals will use AI-generated voices or fake video recordings to impersonate SSA officials or loved ones to steal Social Security numbers, general information, stuff like that. Basically, if they have like it would be so easy for somebody to deep fake my voice, deep fake my face at this point, because there's so many videos of me talking that they could just get. There's so much information that they could collect on me to go and do this. Now, to collect information on somebody that now I'm not saying this is what happens, but you guys ever notice that like the phone will ring, you'll go, hello, this is blah blah blah, and then they hang up. Month later, same thing. Month later, same thing. I have always thought that was like some massive criminal enterprise that was just collecting information. But to be honest, like that's the thing, is like so many people could deepfake my voice. In fact, there are people who take my voice from these YouTube videos and then they put it into a machine and make it bassier and more like way down to the bass spectrum, and then they speed it up and then they just play it during their videos, and they make versions of my videos as their videos. And unfortunately, they do very well, and that's really sad, because it's essentially taking my work product and then making it the thing, which is not fair to me, but it is what it is. Fake caregiver and power of attorney fraud. This is something I see a little bit. I don't see a ton of it when it comes to the power of attorney fraud, but the fake caregiver, I do see that stuff. Someone fraudulently obtains legal authority over a beneficiary and misuses their Social Security benefits. I do see this, but to be fair, like everybody questions POAs now, power of attorneys, because the amount of fraud, getting the signatures on it, is this a real notary, etc. Everybody's pretty much questioning those nowadays. Okay, fraudulent survivor benefit claims: an individual falsely claims to be a surviving spouse, child, or dependent to collect benefits after someone's death. So these are a little bit tricky, because you have to show some sort of connection, some sort of this or that. But there are examples of this where as Social Security Administration personnel will go ahead and create fake kids to somebody who just died and then pay those kids basically benefits. So there was quite a few of those happening at the local field offices with specialists. So not a good thing, not a good thing at all. Imposter websites, another one. Fraudsters will create fake Social Security Administration websites to steal login credentials, Social Security numbers, and other personal data. Not untrue. They'll pay big money on Google to make sure that they show up at the very, very top. And then you'll go ahead and click on it. And then all of a sudden you're like, putting in information to a website that you think is the SSA. It is a problem, but always look for the .gov. Always look for the .gov, okay? Next one, phishing scams. Scammers send emails or text messages pretending to be from the SSA, trying to trick people into providing sensitive information. Totally true. Bottom line is this. If the SSA calls you, Ask them questions about your situation. Ask them questions about your file. Ask them questions about your benefits, because if they're fishing, you do a little fishing of your own. Okay. Fake employer fraud. Criminals set up fake businesses to report false earnings under stolen or synthetic social security numbers, helping others fraudulently qualify for benefits. I don't see this as much anymore, because the bottom line is, like, you usually just see people go ahead and get around that by having somebody hire them and then pay them, and then they report those payments. The ones where they're not careful is when they don't actually show payments, like money leaving one account going into another account. That's just dumb. That's just like, being a dumb criminal. Like, that's just not good. It's just, come on, the criminals need to do a little bit of work here. You know what I mean? Come on now. Skimming and data breach fraud. Criminals use card skimmers or hack databases to steal social security numbers, later using them for fraudulent benefit claims. You were seeing a lot of those, like at 7-Elevens, places like that, where somebody would walk up to, a lot of it was in California. I saw a lot of those. They walk up to a machine and they would pull this whole plastic apparatus up off the machine that would scan your card as you put it into the machine to pay. So kind of the bottom line is, that stuff happens to Social Security recipients as well. Ghost beneficiary fraud. A person continues to cash Social Security checks or access benefits of someone who has died, often hiding the death from authorities. We already went over that. Very simple and straightforward. It can be an older person that passes away from natural death. It can be somebody who basically passes away because you are a bad person. That's the reality. Government grant scams. That's a good one too. Scammers claim that a person is eligible for a special Social Security grant, but must pay upfront fees to claim it. People do fall for those. They're not falling for them as much, but they still do fall for those. Also, if these are helping you understand, like, essentially what types of criminals they're looking for, please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, hit the like button. It does help the channel significantly. Don't be afraid to hit that like button. It is super duper important. Okay, let me go over here real quick and look at the next one. Hold on. Okay, fraudulent name changes. Criminals change their legal name multiple times to fraudulently apply for new Social Security numbers and benefits. There's even a YouTuber who was able to prove by creating fake kids that he could get new Social Security numbers, and he went through how he did it, and it was a crime, and I don't know what happened to him, but it can be done. It can be done. Insider SSA employee fraud. That one it's just such a sad story when you see somebody do that stuff and they play that game. It's really, really unfortunate. It's really, really terrible. Okay, insider SSA employee fraud. Corrupt Social Security employees manipulate records or accept bribes to approve fraudulent benefit claims. You see a lot of that stuff. You see stuff with that where it's like one of those situations where the person you expect and you trust to go ahead and treat you properly will go ahead and essentially, just to be very, very clear with this whole thing, they will go ahead and, basically steal funds that are supposed to be going to somebody, not allow funds to be going to somebody. They will put a restriction on the claim and pay some of the funds themselves. They will, even when somebody needs help, tell them, this is a recent one, that they could help each other out and meet in a parking lot of a hotel. And then the SSA employee in that one got arrested in the parking lot of the hotel. So it's pretty much essentially a situation where that stuff does happen. It is shocking when it does happen, though. Another one, non-existent child or relative fraud. Someone falsely claims to have a disabled child or dependent to collect additional benefits. That's where they get a Social Security number created. One would then consider and wonder, how did somebody outside the SSA, know how to obtain or create a number, or work with somebody at the SSA to create that fake number? So that's a little bit of a trick there. Next one, staged accidents or injuries. People fake or stage injuries to fraudulently qualify for Social Security disability insurance benefits. I don't know why they would nowadays. The benefits are so low. There's such little money with that. I honestly don't know why people would do that. Now, why would you quasi fake injure yourself? And then, but still at the same time, you'd have to get the medical personnel on board. You'd have to spend more than it's worth. It's just, don't do that stuff. It does not make sense to do that stuff. It doesn't make sense. Benefit fraud through marriage for hire schemes. Individuals enter into fake marriages with U.S. citizens to fraudulently claim spousal or survivor benefits. That one's never going away. that one's going to be there. It's never going away. It's just going to continue. Let's see. Duplicate social security number frauds. Criminals create or alter social security numbers to obtain multiple benefits under different identities. That is something that I don't see a lot of that, though. That doesn't happen often that I see. Abusing delayed retirement credits. Some fraudulently manipulate the retirement age records to maximize their social security payout. So they'll change how old they are, what their birthday is, stuff like that. International social security fraud. U.S. citizens who retire abroad may attempt to conceal foreign income or assets to continue receiving benefits they wouldn't otherwise qualify for. There was a lot of this stuff starting to pop out and happen with veterans receiving a veteran check and a social security check. They're getting their VA compensation and their SSDI benefits over in like places like Thailand and over in places like Taiwan, stuff like that. So that you're starting to see some of that stuff pop up where they had a job over there and they were still getting these other checks while claiming that they couldn't work. Another one is fake pension buyouts. Scammers will trick retirees into cashing out their Social Security benefits early for a lump sum, often on an unfair term. All kinds of stuff. It'll be a program that basically takes from you and doesn't give you a fair amount back. It'll be one of those sorts of gigs, And people with these low monthly benefits, they're willing to try and like take the risk, take the big money now kind of gig. So they do run into that. Next one, business owner benefit concealment. Business owners underreport their income or falsely claim they're no longer working to continue receiving disability benefits. So you see that a lot. A lot of people are like, well, I would love to start a job as a disabled person by creating a company. And what they don't realize is that the SSA will attribute to their work what it's actually worth, not what they actually pay themselves. So that one kind of gets them a lot. Next one, Social Security number recycling. Criminals use dormant or unassigned Social Security numbers, often from deceased individuals or infants, to create fraudulent identities and claim benefits. That one is going to be rampant. You're going to be seeing DOGE and Pam Bondi and Elon Musk. You're going to see a lot of those popping up. Okay. Under unreported marriage and SSI cases, people will get married, never tell the SSA because they don't want to get hit with the marriage penalty rule. It's a dumb rule. We need to get rid of SSI marriage penalty. It's just a dumb rule. It does not make sense. It's a dumb rule. We need to get rid of it. Okay. It's just a dumb rule. We just need to get rid of it. Fake dependence on disability applications. People falsely list children or dependents on disability claims to receive increased benefits, like they get those auxiliary child benefits. Organized crime-linked Social Security fraud. Criminal organizations use stolen Social Security numbers and forged documents to commit large-scale benefit fraud. This is for a lot of trafficked people, especially. That's common use by criminals. Senior help scams. Fraudsters befriend elderly Social Security recipients, offering to help manage their finances while secretly stealing their benefits. Although I feel like most elderly people, as long as they're still cognitively functional and capable, they're seeing a lot of this stuff now, which is very good. Abuse of Social Security overpayment waivers. Some individuals claim hardship to avoid repaying SSA overpayments when they were not truly eligible for benefits. Okay, so let me read that again. Some individuals claim hardship to avoid repaying their overpayment. To be honest with you, I don't really see. I think like everybody on retirement benefits and disability benefits, especially disability benefits, there's very few wealthy disability benefit recipient, like people receiving benefits. There's very few of those. So I don't see there's a ton of that abuse. I mean, I get it. I understand it. And overpayment occurs. But there's, with these SSI people that are genuinely disabled receiving SSI, they're all in a hardship situation. None of them are doing good. None of them are in a good spot. Next one, fake disability consultant scams. Scammers charge individuals fees to help them qualify for disability benefits, often submitting false applications and disappearing with the money. To be fair, I don't think people are falling for a lot of that stuff now. Most people just hire attorneys. They don't hire non-legal reps. They just hire attorneys. They go with law firms. That's how it is. Although I am seeing a resurgence in some of that stuff because the new thing is that a person will start a law firm and that law firm will just collect other law firms that they refer clients to. And now the frauders are starting to do that too and call themselves a law firm. And then they refer the person to a fake law firm. And then basically not much happens. So other than, of course, if benefits are paid, they try and, steal them, yada, yada. So I just feel like, if you're going to hire somebody, hire a law firm. You guys know, if you have a problem, you don't go talk to some group that's going to go find a law firm for you in the area. You just go look at the law firms, read the reviews, and pick one. That's how it works. You know what I mean? And call them. Call up 5 of them, call up 10 of them, see which one you get along with. Next one, unreported immigration status changes. Non-citizens receiving Social Security benefits may fail to report changes in visa or residency status that could affect eligibility. This is for SSI benefits purposely, basically when you change your status. All right, let's go to the next one. SSA employee data leak fraud. So this was a big one because remember, in December of 2023, there was a massive amount of Social Security numbers that were released onto the dark web. It was like 270 plus million Social Security numbers. So that was very unfortunate, but it does happen. And that was a company that basically searches faces and creates image recognition of people to go ahead and investigate people at the federal government when they want to investigate people for their benefits that they're receiving for criminal review. Retirement age manipulation. We already went through that. Veteran military service lies. People falsely claim military service or disability to qualify for additional Social Security benefits. So something that happens. Fake terminal illness claims. Some falsely claim to have a terminal illness to expedite disability benefits approval. That's true, but you don't see that a lot because the first thing the SSA is going to do is they're going to say, cool, where's the medical evidence showing that you, from a recognized facility, actually have this terminal illness? Now, they will usually put it on the expedite list, but they will usually also buy with an 827 all the medical records from that facility, and they do a page comparison to see if the pages have the same information or if those pages have differences on them. Next one. Fake direct deposit setup calls. Fraudsters pretend to be SSA representatives, convince victims to change the direct deposit information. We already went through that. Pension poaching scams. We already went through that. Interpreters. We went through that. Social Security fundraising scams. You get that one. That's just con artists basically trying to raise money and claim that they're doing it on behalf of the SSA. And then SSA special assistance robocalls, automated scams, they tell victims they qualify for special Social Security benefits if they verify personal details. A lot of people don't fall for that crap anymore. They're just becoming more and more educated about the situation and how to not fall for scams. Now, with that said, some of these things, most of you will never even come into contact with. You'll never interact with them. They're just not likely for your situation. Some of these things, you have to, and that's the big thing. I tell people, a lot of people will get disability benefits and then they won't go to the doctor thereafter. They won't continue to prove that they are disabled. You have to upkeep your benefits. You got to pour some oil in that engine. You got to pour some good fuel in that engine. You got to go ahead and make sure all the little things inside that engine actually work. So the point that I'm kind of getting at with this situation, I think it's incredibly important, and I'm sorry about the camera going in and out, is that why is it going in and out so much? I'll be back on the regular stage soon. This was an expensive camera too. Literally, I was like, I'm trying to upgrade. This is going to be the thing. And now that I've tried it, I realize it's not the thing. It's not the thing. But anyways, the point is, the thing that scares a lot of people receiving disability benefits is that DOJ is, in their fear, likely to become, essentially like an 8-step sequential process CDR reviewer, where they're going to see essentially whether or not the person is truly disabled and then search through their online programs, their Facebooks, their Twitters, search through videos they posted, photos they posted, search through this, search through that, yada, 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 get a CDI unit assigned, get an ROI report written up, all that stuff. That, I believe, is scary. But nothing kills votes like going after a lot of disabled people that really can't work. So in my opinion, I think Trump, Donald Trump, President Trump, will go ahead and put a little bit of a chain to hold back Pam Bondi and Elon Musk on that particular item. I could be wrong, but over the next 2 to 3 months, we're literally going to find out. So anyways, Attorney Walter Hnot, we are going to go live next where I answer calls for people who basically, have questions. I have to make a call in between this video and the next video, so give me about 15 minutes. But as you know, Mondays and Thursdays, I go live to answer questions for free about disability benefits. I'm Attorney Walter Hnot, the most viewed and subscribed to disability attorney in America. With that said, please like and subscribe, and also head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida, and throw some stars up there on the Google page. We always appreciate that, but you get to choose how many stars, but I always love waking up to those. With that said, please remember, I also do private sessions where there's a link below where you can go ahead and sign up for a 1-hour private session. We usually do about an hour, 10 hour, and 15 minutes. All right. I hope all is well. I will catch you at the next video, Attorney Walter Hnot, and I will see you there. Give me about 15 minutes though. All right. I'll catch you soon. We'll go from there. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.